And let's go live. Let them in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Progressive Sunday Town Hall. The Progressive Town Hall happens every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Mountain, which is also Arizona time right now. Hopefully, everybody's enjoying daylight savings, 1 o'clock Pacific, noon in Alaska. And if you're in Hawaii, it's 10 a.m. and you're joining the Progressive Town Hall, the Sunday Progressive Town Hall. We've been meeting online together for over 5 years as Progressive Democrats of America, PDA Nation. My name is Mike Olis. If we haven't met yet, so nice to meet you. I am the Chief of Staff of Progressive Democrats of America. I'm based in Indianapolis, Indiana, where it is snowing right now, and I'm supposed to go on a work trip up to Chicago and Northwest Indiana to talk about the steel industry and saving steel and creating clean air. And that trip is now looking a little bit iffy because there's a blizzard coming through the Chicago, Northwest Indiana area. So if you're in Chicago or Northwest Indiana, hopefully you have a good couple days. Again, my name is Mike Olis, the Chief of Staff of Progressive Democrats of America. It's 4:01 here in the Eastern Time Zone, and you are at the Progressive Town Hall. It has been an awesome week, in a very dark time for American democracy. On Tuesday night, one of the biggest, most exciting progressive victories that we've had, you know, in a long time, or maybe since AOC, or even, you know, uh, uh, hard to go back. It was Ron Mandani elected to mayor of New York City. If you're from New York, if you're in the city, let us know how that was for you. Maybe you could hop on the town hall here in a little bit and let us tell us how you're feeling and what you saw. So a huge victory in New York City for progressives. Mandani started out like what 1% polling back at the beginning of the year, and ends up with a strong majority for mayor of New York City and wiping out the what I would call the Cuomo establishment and really the Democratic establishment, where I think progressives in this moment are really taking the lead here on inside the party. And that's why Progressive Democrats of America, that's why we organize together, because we want to be inside and outside the party, and we want to be able to make sure the Democratic Party is the party of the working class, and that we can defeat uh, the fascism of Trump and the right wing populism with a progressive populism that actually makes people's lives better, not just blames victims. So we'll be talking about that all day today. Our special guest, our featured guest, is Susie Shannon, based out of Los Angeles, who is one of the great anti-poverty activists here in the United States. Heads up the DNC Poverty Council, and has a lot of important things to say about what we do right now in this moment with Trump, the government shutdown, people losing their benefits. How do we fight back? How do we stay strong? So Susie Shannon, who heads up the DNC Poverty Council and one of the great leading activists on poverty in America, she'll be joining us shortly. So again, welcome everybody. It's 4:03 Eastern, 1:03 on the West Coast. Welcome to the Progressive Town Hall. It is going to be a great meeting. We're going to wrap it up at just in 1 hour today, because at 6 o'clock on the East Coast, the Indianapolis Progressive Democrats are having their monthly meeting. It's actually our 1 year anniversary of meeting together and organizing together. So that's our schedule today. I want to pass off the microphone right now over to Mike Fox in Florida, who's going to give us a quick update. I don't think Alan Minsky has joined us, our executive director. He is also in transit to New York from LA today, and so hopefully he'll join us. But Mike Fox, how's it going down there in Florida? And tell us what's looking like at PDA Nation.
Thank you, brother. And do us a favor, Mike. I need you to tilt your camera down just a little bit. Chop it. There you go.
Okay,
Hot
thank you.
dog. You're looking even better now. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm always the guy discussing the to-dos at the top of this. So let's take a look at our to-dos quickly, because there's a lot of them. To-do number one, as we say every week on this call, number one, revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it here. This is literally good health care. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You make me healthier just by being here. And that is our goal every Sunday, for folks to come onto this call, bond as a community, recognize that in tough times, yep, we're in tough times, no question. That the way we get through that is by showing solidarity with each other and by doing the hard work required to get this ship turned around. That's why Tuesday happened. Bottom line, boatload of people getting in the game and bringing in those votes. And we're going to continue doing it. And this is the place every Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, where you can get re-energized. Okay. So to do number 2 is take notes. Even though we've got the chat on right now, and we're going to be shutting it down while our featured speaker is speaking. Reason for that, we want everybody focused on her words, okay? And then we'll open it back up behind there. But we've got the chat, but invariably the chat is this incredibly long, totally convoluted thing when you download it. So take notes on the side so that you'll definitely know what our to-dos are over the upcoming week, okay? I'll be tossing into the chat the link to our large to-do list that we cover every Thursday on our campaign call. Thursdays, every one of them, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, okay? But from a time and treasure standpoint, we're going to focus on, from a time standpoint, Tennessee 7, Tennessee 7, Tennessee 7, gang. Aftyn Behn, incredible progressive who has a shot at flipping a red district blue. All right. It will be huge if we can make that happen. The election is the first Tuesday in December. So we got to be in the game like yesterday. So I'll be tossing a link into the chat. If you don't see it, go to pdamerica.org/volunteer. Give us an hour. That's all we're looking for, an hour. And my goal is to find 20 new phone bankers on this call. So let's make that happen, okay? That's our number 1 to do from a time standpoint. From a treasure standpoint, our goal on this call is solidarity. We're not saying you got to give money. What we're saying is we want to show each other solidarity with as little as $1. Okay. If you can do more than that, please do. But the goal is for all of us to be together as a team, moving a thing in a direction in measurable, productive ways. Okay. And as Mike was suggesting, we'll come back at the top of the hour to identify where we're at on our goals. We will wrap the recording, and then we'll have a brief family time. So stick around after the recording, because that's where we really dive into, all right, here's what we need to get done. How are we going to do it? Okay. Back to you, Mike Hollis.
Great. Thank you, Mike Fox. I'm seeing a lot of California folks on here. So congratulations to California for helping save American democracy with, unfortunately, ending a really good system of representation so that they can counter the attacks on democracy that Texas started a few months back by mid-district redistricting or mid-decade redistricting. So thank you to California and to Mike Thaler and all the activists who made sure that got passed. And I think Alan Minsky, who's not with us yet, his daughter voted for the first time and waited in line on election day to get that vote in. So thank you to everybody in California for doing that. You know, up and down, wherever there's election on Tuesday, Democrats did well, progressives did great, and now we're on to really a 1 year, a 1 year sprint and marathon to the 2026 elections. And then we'll start having primary elections here in March. And it's going to be it's here on out it's going to be election season, and in Tennessee, in the Nashville metro area, where they gerrymandered it so that Nashville, which is a very progressive Democratic spot, wouldn't have any Democrats in Congress, and split the city into 3 districts, which they're trying to do in Indianapolis now next month. In Nashville, we have a chance as an Aftyn Behn, who is a true populist, a true progressive, to take on a guy who is not beloved by the MAGA, but is endorsed by Trump, right? So we have a chance to flip a seat that might have seemed unflippable, but now is in the realm of possibility. So here over the next 4 weeks, we have a chance to really shock the nation, and for the first time, have a populist progressive be a right-wing corporatist in a severely gerrymandered district. So that is going to be a huge, huge focus. So thank you, Mike, for highlighting that. As we get going today, I want to send it over to Denver, Colorado, and over to Donna Smith, the former executive director of the Progressive Democrats of America, executive director emeritus, maybe is the right way to say it. Donna, it looks like your Broncos play Thursday night, so hopefully you're good. And tell us
Oh, yeah,
about your reflections.
we're glad they won, that's for sure. But thank you, Mike. And Tuesday was certainly a relief, wasn't it, after all of the fighting and all of the negativity to see the American people turn out to vote the way they did, coast to coast? Wow, that was a great balm for the soul, wasn't it, to see that happen? But now we've got to keep pushing forward. Here in Colorado, we had some amazing changes, and one of the most amazing on city council in our second largest city, which is Aurora, Colorado, right next to Denver, where we've turned the city council blue, which is almost impossible when the man who's running the city as mayor is Mike Kaufman, who used to be an elected congressman from Colorado, who is not a good egg. And anyway, we'll get him out of there soon, Aurora. We will do it. But anyway, Colorado had a great night, like all the other states had great nights. Denver got a new bond going, so we can do some improvements here. I want to talk about a couple of things before I talk about Susie Shannon a little bit and poverty in America. Those of you who know Alex Lawson, our friend from Social Security Works, I don't know how many of you follow him on Facebook or on TikTok or any of the other places. I'm sure he's on Blue Sky. I'm sure Social Security Works is. But Alex put up a video this week of his confrontation with ICE outside his own children's school in suburban DC. And I just want to say to everybody, the reason I watched it over and over was the courage and the clarity of our brother Alex Lawson in speaking up. You know, he couldn't change that the ICE officers were there. He couldn't change what they were doing, but he filmed and he kept speaking the entire time and telling them that what they were doing was wrong. And that takes courage, that takes guts in our world. And I'm so proud of Alex for doing it. So if you're on Facebook or you're on with Alex somewhere, take a look at that and give him a little bit of love for what he stood for there. Now we're going to talk about poverty today. I don't know how there could be anything more important in our world right now, right? When the SNAP benefits and food stamps have been thrown back and forth, all I could remember really was the time when I was on food stamps, when I was a young single mom, a teenage young single mom, working in a a factory, essentially, a greenhouse, picking carnations to make a living for myself and my kids, standing in the mud every day. It was pretty chilly in there too, standing in the mud, picking. I can't stand carnations to this day for that reason. It was also the job that propelled me to go back to college because I just thought I can't do this anymore. But I got food stamps at the time. And I think about what might have happened for my kids, my two little kids, if we had not been able to get, it was only $60. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was a lot to me. And it meant at the first of the month, every month, that I could go get milk, I could go get cereal, I could go get the things that I was having a really hard time affording on a minimum wage job. And as I walked through, we live in an apartment building here in Denver, which is not a real high income apartment building. It's a mixed economic use where it has market rate property, tax credit property, and Section 8 property, all in the same building. And the woman across the hall from me has 4 little children and works in a donut shop baking every day for a living. I knocked on her door yesterday because I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm talking all these lofty ideas, but I'm not reaching out directly to my neighbors who probably are in that same scary position I was all those years ago. And Larry and I don't have a lot of food right now, but we have enough that we could share with somebody who was hungry. So I knocked on her door. She gently declined. because I think she was slightly embarrassed. I tried to be so careful, but I would urge all of you on this call. It can be very shameful and isolating to be poor in this country. A lot of people look down on the poor. And if you study your own internal feelings, how many times have you looked away from somebody because you thought they were a lesser person because they were poor? They didn't have the best clothes or shoes. They didn't drive the best car. Maybe their teeth weren't good. Maybe there were a lot of things about them that made you think that they looked poor. And all I can do is think about those. Think about it. Think about it this weekend. How many people are without food for their babies? And we got to fight. And if you think Aftyn Behn's election is important, it's vitally important. But one of the things that I know, Alan hasn't talked to me about it yet, nor has Mike, either of the Mikes. But I have this idea. You know, before the pandemic, we used to do all sorts of exciting things like bus tours and little van trips to promote, you know, policy and to reach out to our neighbors and friends. I think maybe it'd be a whole heck of a lot of fun if we thought about little whistle stops for PDA and for candidates wherever we have chapters that are big enough to maybe help a little bit with it, to really reach in deeply into our communities and lift up those people who still aren't voting, those people who still don't see themselves as any part of the process anymore because they've been discounted so much by the system. So anyway, I'll work on those ideas. I know William's probably seen a message from me recently, and I'm working on thinking about some more generational change within PDA. So thanks all to you. I can't wait to hear from Susie Shannon. And I just ask all of you, reach out to somebody you think might need it right now. Just offer. Just offer. You never know when somebody might need that very much from you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Donna, and love the idea. You know, when progressives get out in the streets, we take over the streets, good things happen. You know, also when we help our neighbors out, I've heard reports from the food banks this weekend about, you know, people are really worried and concerned and huge lines at a lot of food banks this weekend. So, you know, the food bank I help out every Friday, I know they had a busy day. On Saturday. So thank you, Donna, and yeah, please reach out. Let's get these whistle stops going. Um, so now let's go
Just
to our
fun. Just fun. Let's
yeah,
have some fun and joy back in our
absolutely,
lives, right?
and that's how we win. Hey, so let's go out to uh, I don't think Alan has ever showed up, right? No reports of Alan yet. So let's get our featured guest on the phone or on the Zoom. Susie Shannon is a Los Angeles-based activist, heads the DNC Poverty Council's efforts to really bring the conversation about poverty into the party and outside the party. And Susie, are you with us?
Hey, I'm here. Thanks so much for inviting me to be on the call. I want to thank PDA for being champions on issues related to poverty. Alan Minsky has been such a great leader in bringing some of these issues to the forefront. And I really want to thank Donna Smith for everything that she said. My family was also in poverty when I was younger. We were homeless for a while. We relied on food stamps. It was so important for us to be able to eat, which I think a lot of people take for granted, but there are so many people going hungry in this country. And I really want to, and you know, I mean, I say a lot, and I've said on PDA calls as well, that people who are low income, people who live in poverty, they don't have a union, they have the Democratic Party. And when the Democratic Party fails them, they really don't have anyone. As somebody who works for a nonprofit, I am appealing constantly to Democrats to do the right thing around poverty issues. And at no time that I can think of has it been so clear of this strike difference between Democrats and Republicans right now. So many of you know that due to the shutdown, and remember that the shutdown is all around healthcare subsidies, which also impact low income people. Because of that, on November 1st, the the Trump administration used that as an excuse not to pay the 47 million people who are on SNAP benefits. Now, these folks get about $100 to $200 if there's a family of four, maybe about $300 a month to pay for groceries. This is really how they are able to live, to basically go and buy food. And they were cut off as of November 1st. And I can't even tell you how scared people have been since this has happened. I have relatives and friends who are on SNAP benefits. I help a lot of people who are on SNAP benefits. The nonprofit that I work for has several food banks, a lot of whom, are on SNAP benefits, but those benefits don't even last throughout the month for most of the beneficiaries. So they're also relying on food banks. So what happened was in this roller coaster ride was that there were two decisions in the lower court. Okay, so first of all, there were 24 states plus the District of Columbia that filed suit against the Trump administration to release these funds. And there were two decisions in the lower court. There was an appellate court decision, a lower court decision to release the SNAP benefits. At first, we thought 65% of the benefits were going to be released. Then there was another court decision stating that the full benefits had to be released. And then there was a Supreme Court decision from Ketanji Jackson to stay that. But what was interesting was that when the appellate court, once they ruled that the full benefits had to be released, a number of states, particularly the 24 states that filed suit. I live in California, so this happened in our state. We know that Wisconsin also put in what's called a drawdown for these funds immediately. And because the lower court had ruled that the 100% of those funds could be released, they had people working throughout the night to get this drawdown from the Department of Agriculture, whose budget the SNAP benefits come from. So on Friday morning, my organization did this big press conference. We had somebody who was a SNAP beneficiary who had exactly 1 penny in his account to buy groceries. That was it. But because this drawdown happened later that day, Californians got 100% of their SNAP benefits. And this happened also in Wisconsin and a number of other states, mainly Democratic states, who had the foresight to ask for that drawdown right away. So now you have some states that have fully funded their SNAP recipients, and you have other states that have given no money to their SNAP recipients. So the Supreme Court, when they issued their stay, um, basically what's happened now is that the Trump administration has asked all those states who gave money to the SNAP recipients to undo that and to take their money away. So you can imagine if you were, had $203 loaded onto your EBT card, now they're actually asking for these states to take that money away, right? So if you have one of those cards, I would suggest go out and get your groceries before they can take that money back. Now, the states that filed suit and actually got their full benefits are basically telling the Trump administration, no, we're not taking that money back. The Wisconsin governor just issued a statement this morning about this, basically saying, it's just a big F you. We're not taking money, food, grocery money away from these recipients. So it's so important. Like I would say, like one of the to-do items here is really to appeal to your governor to make sure that they're standing strong on SNAP benefits, and you let them know that this is an important issue for you. That should be like first thing out of the gate. As Mike had mentioned, the food bank lines are around the block. There was a LA, meaning LA did a food distribution here in Los Angeles at the LA Forum, which is one of our large concert venues. 17,000 people, I think, can fit inside of the Forum. It's a large building, but also with a huge parking lot, and people were twice wrapped around this building to get food. And what we're seeing at our food banks is that, first of all, it's double the number of people who have come, but we're also running out of food. Even though we increased the food distribution by, I think, 50%, we still had to turn people away at the end. And if you know anything about food banks, they're also not open every single day, right? There's usually specific days, which causes people to have to go to different food banks, usually throughout the week or throughout the month, in order to find food. And of course, there are people who are not able to do that. They're either homebound, or it's very difficult for them to stand in line, or they're very weak, so they can't wait in line, even if they're, like one of my relatives in an electric wheelchair, being out there in line, it's very hard for them. And so we also want to make sure, I mean, this is why the cash assistance part and putting money on a card is so important for people, because um, there's so many ways that they can get groceries, but if they're forced to physically be in line at a food bank that doesn't do home delivery, it can be very, very hard. Also, in rural communities, I'm sure many of you live in rural communities, that to get to a food bank can be a big struggle, especially if you don't drive or there isn't very good public transportation. And so, I mean, this is like, I would say, a new level of cruelty of what is happening from the Trump administration. And again, the shutdown is around healthcare subsidies. So right now, this is a lose-lose for people living in poverty, because we don't want people living in poverty to lose what's life-saving healthcare for them. And we also don't want them to lose their food stamps. So the governors who are really fighting, I mean, our press conference on Friday morning was basically to urge Governor Gavin Newsom in California to backfill what the federal government isn't doing, because we can't have people starving in our state or really around the whole country. So we're hoping that governors will step in to do this. Now, there's this huge struggle right now, and this is for the November SNAP benefits. So now what happens in December? So the Trump administration has said that any state who doesn't give money back, that doesn't take money from poor people that they're going to use for groceries, doesn't take that money back, that they are going to fine them, right? And we don't know how much. We don't know like what that fine is going to look like right now, but they're basically threatening to take some of that SNAP food benefit away for the next month, although we don't even know if in December there'll be any money distributed if we're still shut down. And we're hoping, like, because of, they're like 10% of the flights now are being canceled. And so we're hoping that now that this is affecting the middle class, with the flight disruptions, like in upper middle class, and this is during the holidays, so people are trying to fly, to get to basically be with families, that this disruption will put a lot of pressure on Congress to reopen. But again, we don't want them to reopen if it means that low-income people are then going to lose their healthcare subsidies. So, if you're rich, you're doing great, right? You probably own your home. It's probably completely paid off. You have groceries, you have, food fully stocked. You can go to restaurants, and you probably ride in a private plane. So if you're really rich, this isn't going to affect you at all, right? This isn't going to affect Donald Trump and his family at all. He's got a private plane. He's got everything he needs. This is affecting people who are lower income, and it's an absolute unconscionable situation right now in terms of what they're doing to low income folks. So we know too that people who don't have their SNAP benefits are going to use their rent money, right, to pay for groceries. And so I wrote an op-ed, it was in Real Clear Politics and got picked up by Yahoo News, basically saying food or rent. And so we know that people will use our rent money, and then they're going to get behind on rent, and they're going to have to pay late fees on their rent, which is already happening. We're already seeing this because you can't eat your rent, right? You're going to use that money for groceries. So this is also affecting now housing. And so, there has to be an end to this. And I just want to say, Mamdani winning in New York is really, it's a huge win for renters. I mean, there have even been progressive organizations who have said, do we still need to talk about rent control? And I'm like, are you crazy? Yes, we absolutely need to keep talking about rent control and rent stabilization and renters. So now we have this humongous victory, right, in New York, the social democrat, who actually is a rent stabilized tenant. And I don't know, I mean, I haven't looked at the history. I would guess that he's the first rent stabilized tenant to ever win to be mayor of New York. But this has a wonderful domino effect across the United States that now tenant organizations, right? And also, if you're a candidate or if you're an elected official and you see this huge victory, right, you have to stop undermining tenants. You have to stop siding with corporate landlords who are really just there to amass as much profit as they can, who basically have buildings that are just a line item on a balance sheet. They're just a commodity. They could leave them completely empty, and some of them do, just, to wait for them to appreciate in value so they can sell them later. And it's not even about tenants. So we have like 70,000 empty units in LA alone. And so what's been wonderful about Mamdani's victory, and even the fact that he's a rent stabilized tenant, has been that it has put rent control really on the map across the United States. And so we know that the apartment associations have been moving on the state and local level to get their candidates in. But I think that Mamdani's victory has basically shown that it's kind of a loser now to go against renters. And so we're going to be doing everything we can while Mamdani is in, and hopefully he'll win another term. But we're going to do everything we can to bolster tenant organizing, tenant organizations, making sure that candidates are running on a pro-tenant platform so that we can help folks. I mean, you can't even underestimate this huge victory. And the fact that, you take Los Angeles, which is a city that has more rent burdened folks than anywhere in the entire country, including New York, has more people who are homeless, which we kind of compete with New York for the number of people who are homeless. And when we had our mayoral election, which was 3 years ago, rent control and rent stabilized tenants were not even an issue in that election. And in New York, you see this was one of the number one issues that they were talking about. So this is so important for the organizing. And it's so important when we're talking about Mamdani to remind people that he's a rent stabilized tenant, that renters actually are kind of on the map again, and rent control is on the map again. And we need to be like spreading that message as part of his victory, because his victory again is a victory for renters. So I mean, there are so many things that are going on too with the Trump administration. we're waiting for like the next shoe to drop, which will be on Section 8 tenants. And so there's a lot of work that organizations like our organization, Housing is a Human Right, a National Coalition for the Homeless are doing to make sure that our Democratic senators and congressional members are holding strong to on on Section 8 tenants, on public housing, for all of the same reasons. If they're willing to take food out of the mouths of children, they're easily going to take away housing subsidies from people who are low income. And I think, the Republican strategy right now has been to say, well, there are people on SNAP benefits who shouldn't be on them. And, they're basically trying to undermine the program, but it's not working, right? And the media is not falling for that either, which I think is great. I don't watch Fox News, so I have no idea what they're saying, but I know that, for most of the mainstream media, they are horrified by this. We have not seen lines like this since like the bread lines in the 1930s during the Depression. And this is just, it's just a complete nightmare. We saw during COVID that providing rental assistance, that providing help to people actually works. It works. It helps stabilize our society, make sure that people have the basic necessities. And I think part of what we need to do as progressives is to make sure that we continue spreading that message. Write letters to the editor, make sure that, write op-eds. I wrote an op-ed. I didn't think it would get picked up about the SNAP crisis, but it did. And we just need to keep putting that message out there. The number one thing though on SNAP benefits is really going to happen with your governor. So if you, live in a blue state and you have a Democratic governor, definitely sending that message that they need to hold strong on SNAP benefits is really, really important right now. So I'll end with that in case there's any questions.
Great. Thank you, Susie. And yeah, we're gonna take questions here just in a second. I guess one question I would have for you, and we'll try to, get a lot of questions answered. With the DNC, and you're working with Democrats, what do you think is going to be important for the Democratic Party right now to be a leader on poverty and hunger right now? When it,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
what's that look like for the main, for the party?
yeah. So thankfully, our chair, Ken Martin, actually was on food stamps, what was called food stamps back then, when he was younger. And so he is, huge advocate for making sure that, you know, people keep these benefits. He came to Los Angeles. We did a huge roundtable with people who are on SNAP benefits and also had subsidized housing or rent control to talk about what they were going through. And so we have a big champion in the chair, which is really, really, really helpful. Again, appealing to these Democratic governors to hold strong, also super important. The lawsuits are super important. And I think, the fact that we have a DNC now that is willing to kind of go to the mat on these issues, I think is super important. I will tell you, many, many times we have elected officials come to Los Angeles. Usually it's to raise money. And I tell every single one of them, you should go to Skid Row. You should really see what's happening here in LA. You shouldn't just be, in big homes, in great neighborhoods. You should also go and see what's really happening here. And I will say, I told Ken Martin that, and he left our meeting and he went straight to Skid Row. So I mean, to his credit, he actually is a really big champion. So that's helpful. Our next DNC Poverty Council meeting in person is going to be in Los Angeles on December 13th at 11 a.m. at the Intercontinental Hotel. That's where the DNC will be meeting on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Our meeting is on Saturday, 11 o'clock. So if you are in the LA area, please come and join us. And then we'll also have a virtual meeting before that to talk about SNAP benefits and housing and a lot of the other issues that are going on with people who are low income.
Great. Awesome. Well, I'm going to open up the questions, our group chat here, and get some questions answered. And I'm sorry, I'm struggling here to see who's raised a hand, but I saw one of my I'd say good friends who was on the cover of CNN doing a food distribution to federal workers. So, Kimberly Conkle, I saw your hand was raised. Mike Fox, did you help Kimberly ask her come online and ask her question? And this is the great picture of Kimberly on CNN. So
She just disappeared from the queue magically. So
okay,
get on to number 2 and I'll get to Kimberly.
I'm seeing
Oh, here I am.
Lynn.
Hi.
Oh, hey, Kimberly.
There we go, Kimberly.
Hi. Maybe you can see me. I don't know. Hi. Thank you so much for your talk. I really appreciate it. My name is Kimberly Conkle. I'm a friend of Mike. I know him from, I think, the Brain Campaign. We can't quite remember how we met. But I'm a federal employee. I kind of keep in the background because I've been a federal employee I had been a federal employee for 25 years until just recently when I was a senior public health advisor in the Department of Health and Human Services. And I'm here honestly in a panic while I was raising my hand. I'm sorry to interrupt you with that hand raise because I'm part of a coalition, the Civil Servants Coalition, and I represent about 7,000 current and former feds who are actively engaging on the Hill on issues, of course, of poverty. My work was I managed 2 grant projects in the end. Like my last role was managing the Minority AIDS Initiative and then the treatment for individuals experiencing homelessness. Right now in the Senate Democrats are about to fold and cave into, this is how we're perceiving it. And I don't know if our perception is accurate, right? But they seem to be folding on the shutdown. And so our coalition's in a panic and asking people to call Senators Baldwin, Coons, Hansen, Ossoff, and Peters within the next hour because they may very well fold within the next hour. And so I have some like memes I can send to you guys that have the helpful information on that. And then other than that, I mean, there's a lot we could talk about here about how our coalitions could coordinate and work together because we align so much, so many. I mean, we have all taken, the people I represent have all taken an oath and I'm going to use a swear word and I hope you will forgive me all. We don't know each other, but I haven't yet to hear somebody talk about their oath that is a beloved oath without using the word fucking in front of it, this fucking oath, because it just feels so daunting and overwhelming and hard. And so I'm so grateful for the camaraderie I have with y'all, and I've invited some of my comrades in this other work to join us here. But I really kind of beg y'all to consider calling senators now, like now, like and now means now. So I can send you this stuff, but thank you, and I'm sorry to kind of interrupt, but really grateful
Kimberly,
for
thank
your work
you
on poverty.
for that. And I guess the breaking news of that, Susie, how are you feel like? What are you hearing about the shutdown and folks caving and yeah, what do we got to do to keep the pressure up?
Yeah, I mean, all of our advocacy is around folks not caving, right? Our elected officials, if they cave, what's going to happen is that people are going to lose really what would be life-saving health care. And so like I said, like people who are low income are in a lose-lose situation right now, but we cannot have Democrats caving. It's really, really important. And I mean, this is why the Trump administration is so upset that some of the states actually loaded on full benefits for food is because they were basically willing to starve people in order to get their way. And so they're upset that didn't happen for some of these states. So, it's just very important that they don't cave because, people need life-saving healthcare as well.
Great. We have about 8, 9 hands raised. So I'm going to go to Lynn in SoCal, Lynn H of SoCal, and then Michael
Yes.
D next. Hey, Lynn.
Yeah. Susie, hi, it's Lynn, and I
Hi.
have a local issue that may apply to everyone who's ever faced this issue. I went to a local neighborhood council meeting. I'm in West LA near the VA facility, and there was a controversy, an argument about housing homeless people, 800 homeless people in the facility. Veterans showed up and they said, no, not in our neighborhood, basically. And I heard testimony after one person after another was saying, the homeless people are drug addicts. They leave their crack pipes everywhere. They are mentally ill. It was just a slam. And I felt really hurt that they didn't respect their fellow human beings. So I said something. But my question to you is if you could maybe post in the chat or tell me any studies of any programs that have been very successful for housing homeless people and a way to answer these people to be more respectful to
Yeah.
homeless people.
Yeah, there's two things. One is adaptive reuse, which is taking existing buildings and converting them for people who are unhoused. It doesn't go through the same permitting process. You don't have to disclose that people who are unhoused are coming in. And it's one way to just, like folks have homeless housing all throughout their neighborhoods. They just don't know it. Also, it's really important to point out that drug and alcohol addiction is a societal problem. There are more people who are housed who have drug and alcohol problems than unhoused, and we have to stop, allowing this terrible stereotype. People have drug and alcohol addictions. Celebrities have them. They're in and out of rehabs, and people seem to think that's interesting. But when, somebody who is on the street, which only represents about 28% of the people who are unhoused, have drug or alcohol addictions, then all of a sudden, that's the worst thing ever. And we all know it's a societal problem. And the other thing is that homelessness actually can cause PTSD for people. And sometimes, depending on their triggers, it can trigger an alcohol addiction. It could trigger um, a drug addiction. It can trigger hoarding. It can trigger a lot of things because people are in a fight or flight situation every single day. They're just trying to survive. It does tend to trigger sometimes things like that, but it's really awful, that, People magazine, will focus on like drug rehab for celebrities as though this is like, just a normal thing, normal everyday thing, and there are car crashes in LA because of this, but somehow, our homeless community gets vilified. And again, it's only 28% of that community.
Great. So, Michael, yeah, we have about 15 minutes. So let's go back-to-back questions and then answer so we can try to get as many folks to answer this question. Michael D and Angela V, if you could come online.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so good, great job, to the person, to Susie. Yeah, I'm a veteran and I get food stamps and housing, and everybody should get them. Everybody. I mean, the president of the United States gets a full set of benefits. So why should we all? He's working for us. We joined the military for benefits. So Susie, what's going on? Which senators should we contact again? And why is that important?
I mean, you should be contacting all of your senators. Whoever your senator is in your state, you should be contacting them. I know
Well,
that Kimberly had mentioned um, a number of them. I can't remember all of them. I know Asaf was in there. But the truth is, um, what happens in the Senate is that when folks are caving, particularly the leadership, and if the leadership is putting pressure on senators, they kind of all go. So we need to be, contacting everyone. You can't, what happens is it becomes momentum. And then once it's momentum, then, they all cave. So, hearing from you is very important with your
And they're,
congressional representatives too. And don't forget your governor.
and they're gonna cave because they're gonna cave on the ACA? I
I don't,
haven't heard.
I don't, I don't know that they're going to cave. I'm
Oh,
just saying that
okay,
in the whole argument that's happening,
right,
they should be hearing from progressives and they should be hearing
right,
from Democrats not to cave.
right, okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's nothing official yet, but I think there's some bad vibes, so we just want to make sure everybody gets gets a call. And then Lucero just put in a list of folks to call. And so if you see Laura's post there, those are some of the numbers to call. So thank you for that. And then Angela, do you want to come
Yeah, hi
online?
Susie, it's Angela Vuolo from the Coalition for the National Infrastructure Bank. I wanted to thank you so much for what you're doing right now to try to keep people alive. We need obviously short-term and long-term solutions. I thought maybe you could comment because people don't know that the DNC also passed a resolution for a $5
Yep.
trillion national infrastructure bank so we could build these affordable houses and create jobs for people so that they can afford the homes. But there is a bill right now in the US Congress, HR 5356, that has 46 Democrats on the bill to support this. So people should get to your members of Congress and ask them to co-sponsor. And I really hope that you would, comment on the need for this National Infrastructure Bank.
Yes. So we are huge proponents of a national infrastructure bank. It's an off-budget way of helping to fund low-income housing, homelessness programs, a lot of the stuff that we're going through right now. This provides an alternative to the budget. And it's really amazing, and it's also bipartisan, which is very helpful. So completely agree. HR 5356, that should be part of the calls that you're making as well, to your elected officials. And if anyone, like many of you, I have a number of friends who are elected officials, and they tell me all the time that the calls really, really matter. And they have people, who keep the numbers on how many people are calling, and it can help make a difference. So, please make those calls. As much as it seems like you're just one person making a phone call or leaving a message, it actually really does help.
Thank you. Let's go to Sam and Edie. Sam in North Carolina, and then Edie, which I don't know where Edie's at, but Sam, how's it going? Sam Brewer.
Hey, thanks. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, Sam Brewer in North Carolina, where we have filing for offices, including Congress, starting in about 3 weeks. Are there, from your point of view, policies, top policy priorities that you would like to see members or candidates for Congress run on that are the most important for addressing these issues?
Yeah, I'd like to see them running on lowering rent. I'd like to see them running on, fully funding SNAP benefits. I'd like to see them running, on basically issues that help low income communities, right? Um, it's so important that we are helping people who are the most vulnerable. I feel like government should be doing that. That's the reason, that we have that. I'd also like to see um, progressive organizations raising these issues more. How many times have you been on calls? And PDA has really been, I think the leading organization that's been focused on poverty issues, that are progressive. But how many times have you been on calls and no one's ever even mentioned SNAP benefits? No one's even mentioned rent, housing, and not housing for people. Like, you will hear a lot of congressional representatives talk about building luxury housing or more market rate housing. And what they say is we need more housing, but they're not talking about housing for low income communities. They're talking about people for higher end communities, right? The higher end apartments to the exclusion of low income. And then they make you try to believe in some crazy trickle down way that somehow this luxury housing is going to be for low income people later on, like a
Yeah, we
decade later.
absolutely hear that here.
It's crazy.
Is there a
Yeah, and
specific policy or bill that would effectively help lower rent?
well, I think there's a couple of things. One, the adaptive reuse so that we can use existing infrastructure in existing buildings. That's a bill that Jimmy Gomez and a Republican, it's also bipartisan, have put forward. And I'm blanking on the number. It may not have a number yet. So that's one. And two is when we build, we need to build low income housing. This was something Mamdani also ran on, which is not just, changing zoning code and stuff like that so that these developers can, you know, basically build whatever they want to get their profit. We need to be building for the community and for the people who need it most first.
Let's go
Thank
to
you so much.
Edie. Sorry, Sam. We'll come back around, but Edie, how's it going? We want to try to
Hi.
power answer these questions. We got 6 minutes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the thing about the rent. Most people, even me, wouldn't qualify for that stuff, but I'm still paying 60% of what I take home on rent. To really, I was just gonna mention that's really good though, because that bill.
Yeah. Yeah, so you should only be paying 30% of your income on rent, otherwise you're considered rent burdened. And you would still qualify for a rent controlled apartment and maybe also some affordable housing. I mean, I don't know because I don't know what your income is and we don't have to go into that. But there's usually something for most folks out there. So yeah, I mean, I'd
Not
be
here.
happy to talk to you about that offline. But yeah, you should only be paying 30% of your income on rent.
But what they're building here, this is a small town in North Jersey. Those apartments cost more than my sister's mortgage. They're real expensive. And wow.
Yeah, that needs to stop, and we need to demand that our candidates are talking about housing. I mean, I've seen like progressives, supporting candidates who are not on board for low income housing, frankly. They might support Medicare for all, they might support, some of the
Need
issues
that
in the
too.
Middle East, but we need to be pretty hard on them
Yeah.
about both SNAP benefits and rent.
So let's
Thank
go to
you.
Mila and Heidi. Let's see if we can get a couple more questions answered. We'll maybe go a couple extra minutes. But Mila and Heidi, can you unmute and ask away?
Yeah. Oh, well, Susie, I hope everyone here recognizes the extraordinary work you do, and I'm so grateful, personally, and for everything you're doing for so many. One thing, would you please put in the chat the details of the meeting that's going to be held on December 13th, Saturday morning
Sure.
in Los Angeles, because I'm going to try to make it. And I wanted to ask you this. I heard Mondami
I
say,
gotta show you something funny. Are you
Come
still
on
Oh,
on?
now.
everyone should mute. Can you please
Sorry,
mute
Mike.
if you're
Yeah,
not
Mike.
speaking?
yeah, okay, I'll start that question again. I
Okay.
heard Mondami say, I believe, that there were actually open units that were in about equal number to the unhoused people that were on the street. And one of his priorities was going to be to match those unhoused people up with the units that might be available for them. Is there a similar kind of situation in Los Angeles or other places where we have problems with people in need of housing?
Yeah, so we have 70,000 vacant units. It's this exact same thing. We could basically fill those apartments with every single person that is homeless in the city of LA, which is about 43,000 people, maybe more. And then we have about 75,000 people in the county who are unhoused in LA County. So we have almost enough to provide housing for every single person. And it just goes into what are the priorities of your city. And so yes, so we've been pushing the city government here, which is under Mayor Karen Bass, to open up these units. We literally have homeless encampments in the shadows of empty buildings here. I mean, that just shows that the political priorities, policy priorities for the city are very askew. But again, you have to demand this of the candidate before they get in to find out like what their ideas are and how they're going to, fund these programs. But it costs about a third, or no, it costs about a third of what it costs to build new housing, to just engage in adaptive reuse, which is using current buildings that are empty or nearly empty, to help house folks. Thanks for that.
Great. So we're at the top of the hour. Maybe we'll go an extra couple minutes. That's cool, Mike. I'm gonna probably have to head out to get to my meeting, but let's go to Heidi again, Heidi, and then let's go to Paul and Austin, and then we'll probably have to wrap it up there. But if we'll try to give a couple more minutes, and then we'll answer any other questions online. I see a 773 number here too, so we have a little bit extra. Hop on, and we'll try to get some questions answered.
Okay. Am I live?
Yep, you're live. Yep.
So thank you again so much for all of your work. I'm wondering how useful this might be, but if I recall right, I think I saw that there was a chorus from America's Got Talent from Los Angeles that went to that to participate in America's Got Talent. And I'm wondering if there wouldn't be a way to have that chorus go to each of the candidates and bird dog them, because that might bring a lot of media attention to them. And I'm just wondering if just how creative can we get here is what I guess I'm asking.
Yeah. I know about that group and they're connected to an organization in the Skid Row area downtown. I don't know that they're really working on like national issues like this. I'm just not sure, but I think it's a really good idea. I just think that the organization itself, I don't know, would take that on. But that it is a really great idea.
Well, is there any way that you can like contact them?
Yeah, but I mean, they're not, they don't really provide services. And I think most of their organizing is done at the very, very local level and around Skid Row. But yeah, we can appeal to them.
Great, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, can I talk now?
Yep.
Okay, so as you can see, I'm a physician. I'm an emergency physician taking care of California's indigent population for 41 years. And one of the things that I've noticed about homeless people is they frequently have medical problems that are associated with this. Are we able to somehow organize, along with housing, access to medical care for these people so that they can get on medications and they can get the medical care that they frequently richly need, and see if we can arrange that along with their housing?
Yeah. So I should probably disclose I'm also a health commissioner for the city of Los Angeles. And I completely agree with you. First of all, it's very hard for people to get stable and get the medical care that they need if they're living on the street. They don't want to leave their stuff to go to doctor's appointments. There are some, like in some cities, there are storage options for folks, who can temporarily store their stuff while they're going to doctor's appointments, but it's just very hard. Also, if you need medications that need to be refrigerated, you need to find, some kind of shelter that's willing to hold those for you and refrigerate in one of the refrigerators. So it's just a constant problem. We find though that once people get housed, they have the stability, they'll have a refrigerator, they'll have a lot of things, that will help them stabilize, and it helps them go consistently to doctor's appointments. I had a client who was
I'm sorry,
constantly
I'm losing
trying
your
to
audio
get
feed.
him into housing. Oh, sorry. He had severe diabetes. We were able to get him housed eventually. And now, he goes to the doctor every week. He's getting the medical care that he needs. So I agree, it's really, really important. And this is why with the shutdown, even though a lot of folks are on Medicaid, that I work with, you have to have access to
Just a
medical care.
suggestion is to hold funding for
It's so
hospitals
important.
contingent upon the ability of them to supply the medical care that these people need. We might want to consider holding them hostage for that.
I think that's a great point. I don't know if we lost Susie there. This is Mike. I'm gonna hand this call over to Mike Fox, so that's okay, Mike, because I'm gonna run to my meeting as we organize across the country. So, Mike Fox, do you want to take things over?
Sure can. Actually, put a bow on this. We'll stop the recording and then we'll go into family time.
Okay, let's stop the recording. Keep asking questions, and everybody have a great week. Thank you so much to Susie Shannon. Thank you to everybody who's asking some great questions. And let's pray and act that this shutdown doesn't end up with a big loss for the people of America tonight or in the near future. So let's keep fighting. And Mike Fox, take it away.